How does walking actually inspire us to be inspired?
Well, how it does so is a function of the body, mind, spirit, emotion, what we might call the quadrinity. Right? There's your spirit, there's your mind, there's your emotion, there's your body. And walking is a time-honored methodology for aligning the quadrinity. There's all sorts of speculation and theories and studies about why do people get their best ideas when they walk? The main area, people get their best idea in the shower, the bath, when they're sleeping. But if you look through the great geniuses in history, their number one method of getting their best ideas is to go for a walk.
On today's show, I am delighted to welcome back the wonderful Michael Gelb, esteemed author and coach to executives right across the globe. Let's start by giving a little bit of context to today's episode, because over the last few episodes we've stumbled onto a powerful theme, one I didn't plan, but one that's certainly been impossible to ignore. In our conversation with the incredible entrepreneur Anne Mallam in episode 6, we heard how Anne built Back on My Feet into a national movement simply by getting people out walking and running. She saw firsthand how putting one foot in front of the other could literally change a life. Then, when I hosted Dr. Michelle Johnston in episode 7, we dove deep into her latest book, The 7 Seismic Shifts, where she showed us why leaders should ditch the boardroom for connection walks, something that I certainly have used very powerfully in the past. She reminded us that walking side by side creates much deeper rapport than sitting across a table ever will. So it felt like perfect timing to bring you this previously unreleased episode with Michael Gelb. Michael's most recent book, Walking Well, takes this idea from inspiring to actionable. He breaks down how to walk in a way that boosts creativity, strengthens relationships, and ultimately elevates your leadership. If Anne showed us the impact and Michelle showed us the opportunity, Michael, in this episode, gives us the operating manual. Michael, you're very, very welcome back to the ScaleX Insider podcast. Absolutely delighted and thrilled to be speaking with you again, my friends.
Great to be with you, as always.
Yeah, look, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. We've been speaking off air. You have experienced quite a Zen trip. You've been telling me you've just spent 7 days with the incredible Joe Dispenza. So can you share with us what's over your left-hand shoulder? There's a big J there. You were telling us it's your mind map. Explain to our listeners what a mind map is.
Sure. Well, what's great is from the time I was 30 years old, I began making mind maps. A mind map is simply a way to generate and organize your ideas using keywords and imagery so that you not only remember what you're thinking, but you inspire yourself through the imagery that you create, which is easier to remember. And everybody has good intentions, but you have to actually remember to do them. So mind mapping is a visual mnemonic memory system originated by my dear friend, Tony Buzan. And Tony taught people to make a mind map of their life, their goals, their dreams, and so on. So I've been doing this since I was 30, and I've been teaching it to people ever since. And of course, I actually do it myself. I make a mind map for each day. I make a mind map for the year, and I usually make a 5-year goal mind map. And what's amazing is most of the time, everything I put on my mind map has manifested. So as we were discussing, I took the opportunity to spend 7 days with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And in preparation for that, I completed his 23-hour online course. And on that course, he suggests that you do what I've been suggesting people do for all these years. And I thought, well, I'm going to do it again just to prepare for the course with Joe, because I think it was a great opportunity. I have a tremendous resonance, his books, everything he says. It's all the universal truths that I've been teaching, all of the practices that are in my books. But what Joe has done is create a synthesis of the scientific research with the practices with very high production value. So his music is great. The lighting is great. He's really good at, I like his fun, hypnotic trance induction, the way he uses his voice. He says, find your heart center. And he says, find it, feel it. And some people think, oh my God, what's he doing? No. He's purposely shifting you out of your logical, rational brain. We're talking in a regular, logical, rational way. But if you want people to get into a different state, you need to kind of trick them out of their habitual way of thinking. So Joe's very good at that, using color, lights, sound, music, and so on and so forth, as well as the hypnotic induction. Anyway, this is a great opportunity to go deep into these universal principles and apply them for my own personal evolution and growth, because I never rest on my laurels. I mean, the past and what I've done in the past, who cares? What am I doing now? How am I learning now? How am I growing now? How am I really applying these universal principles to the challenges in my life now? And we've talked before, so you know that one of my mottos is we all need all the help we can get. And that's why it's so cool. You do this great podcast. You bring on all these wonderful people. You're always curious. You've got Wim Hof. You have all these other resources, but you're always thinking, how can I go deeper? What more can I learn? And that's what I love about you and your podcast is you have the genuine spirit of curiosità, the first Da Vinci principle. So it's that real spirit, that real passion, that's the mojo, that's the energy. So then the question is, how do I bring that to my own life in a memorable way? What do I want to manifest and create now? So that's my simplified mind map with some key imagery that I can just, I don't have to look at it because it's so vivid. I can picture everything, and that makes it obviously easier to remember. And if you remember things, you're more likely to actually do them. It's pretty simple.
Well, we'll come back to it at the end whenever you can share with us what's next for you, because I suspect that what's next for you is beautifully scripted on that wonderful mind map. And I have to thank you, my friend, because you introduced me to mind maps quite a number of years ago. And I introduced them to my daughters who were in school at the time. My second daughter has just finished school, I have to say, congratulations, Cara. She's finished school. She's off to do actually exactly what she wanted to do with the help of mind maps. Her revision notes were works of art, mind map works of art. It's an incredible tool. And actually, in terms of my own mind map bucket list, Joe Dispenza is on there. I have a number of friends who have also participated in his retreat, and they rate it incredibly highly, one of the best experiences they've ever had. So speaking of mind maps, our vision is to inspire, connect, and enable millions of ambitious leaders of small and medium-sized enterprises to scale with purpose. You know this well, my friend. So once again, what does scaling with purpose mean to you?
Well, as you know, in 2008, I brought out a book called Innovate Like Edison, which I co-authored with Sarah Miller Caldecott, who is Thomas Edison's great grandniece. And she rang me up and she said, I read your book about Leonardo da Vinci and I was really inspired. She told me she had an MBA from Dartmouth, from the Tuck graduate school. And then she told me she was Thomas Edison's great grandniece. And she was inspired by what I had done with Da Vinci. And she was thinking about how she could do something around Thomas Edison. So in that moment, as soon as she said that, a light bulb went off. And I saw this vision that she and I would write this book together. And my intuition said, well, it'll be so great to collaborate with her because she has the business background of being a Tuck MBA. And she has this lineage connection with Edison. So it will open all the doors for us to meet and work with the world's leading Edison scholars, which it did. So I made a mind map because I knew a lot about Edison. I'd studied him a lot. And I also knew that he would create a opportunity for me to scale my own business, because although Da Vinci, How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci, is a huge global bestseller, some people relate more to Edison than to Da Vinci. Some people want an engineer, they want an inventor, they want a businessman rather than an artist. Leonardo was just concerned with truth, beauty, and goodness. Edison was concerned with truth, beauty, goodness, and making a lot of money. So for my business clients, I could feel that Edison would be a role model for those clients who might not resonate as much with Da Vinci, or who resonate with Da Vinci but want to know what's next. So I made a mind map, and one of the elements of Edison's genius, which became a whole chapter of that book, is on scale-up effects. So Edison understood something that's really important for aspiring scale-up people to understand, and that is stuff gets exponentially more complicated as you scale up. So you have to anticipate and test out and solve problems when they are small, because they're going to get way out of control if you don't button them down and sort it out early on in the process. I'll give you my favorite example is I love to cook. People come to my house for dinner all the time. I can cook no problem at all for 8 people. But you know what? I try not to cook for 10 or 12 or 16 or 24, because I don't have the pots and pans. I don't have the serving dishes. And the recipes that I can masterfully and effortlessly put together for 4, 6, or 8 people, they just get funky when you need to be a professional freaking chef who's had the experience of doing that. So the metaphor for your enterprise is obvious. Things get exponentially more complicated. So Edison realized you had to really carefully test and think things through from multiple angles, which, by the way, is a great way to use mind map. You can mind map all of the issues that you may have to deal with and then solve those problems while they're small.
It speaks to a mantra of ours, which we hold dear, which is simple scales, complex feels. And in the context of scaling, I go back to an earlier conversation I had 3 or 4 years ago with the wonderful Professor Damien Hughes, who said, in the context of crafting your vision, you should also seek to conduct a pre-mortem. Essentially, call out the things that might trip you up along the way and address them now, so that when they do arise, that they're no surprise. You've already actually addressed them. So that's wonderful. And you know, it just trips off your tongue to write a book with Thomas Edison's great granddaughter. We have never had a guest who has brushed shoulders with such a genius, I think, as that, Michael.
You'll love this. So when the Edison book came out, I was interviewed by USA Today, a national paper here in the States. And the interviewer said to me, if Da Vinci and Edison got together, what might they ask each other? So I said that Da Vinci would ask Edison about the nature of light, because he was always interested in light, and Edison had figured out a lot about it. But that Edison would ask Da Vinci, do you want a job?
Very good. And I say to all of the leaders who certainly come into our community, you should always be selling yourself and your vision, and always recruiting, always be recruiting. So wonderful. Look, you mentioned at the outset you do not rest on your laurels, and you certainly don't. You have just released your 18th book. Quite incredible, Michael. I absolutely tip my hat to you, sir. It's the value you put out into the world is immense. Your new book, Walking Well, a new approach for comfort, vitality, and inspiration in every step, is not typically the subject matter of a business podcast. So I thought we've known everything there is to know about walking. It's something intuitive. We do it innately. What on earth inspired you to write a book about walking?
So that's a good point. I mean, everybody thinks they know how to walk. So why do I need to read a book? Just like, for example, everybody thinks they know how to drive. But if you ever go out there on the road, you're probably critiquing a good number of the other drivers, and you think, learn to drive. And what's fascinating, so I had this vision of a book I wanted to write a number of years ago, and the publisher finally said to me, okay, we want you to do this, but we need it really fast. I said, well, how fast do you want it? They said, can you get it for us in 10 weeks? So I thought, I can if you're going to pay me enough money. So I remember calculating the cost of a Porsche 911 4S, and then adding the taxes that I have to pay cash for that dream car, which I think is the car Leonardo da Vinci would have designed if he designed cars.
I agree, by the way.
Right? So I told my agent, I said, if they'll pay me the amount that I can just buy myself this Porsche for cash, I will deliver the book in 10 weeks. So that was the deal. And I delivered the book in 10 weeks, and I got a brand new Porsche Carrera 4S. However, taking responsibility for having a car like that, I quickly realized I wasn't qualified to drive it, that it could do so much more than I was capable of taking advantage of. So I went on the Porsche racing school down in Alabama. And it was, I think, 3 days driving with professional drivers. And it was so humbling and so illuminating. And I improved as a driver dramatically. And I already thought I was a pretty good driver. So that's what our book does for you as far as walking is concerned. You think you know how to walk, but what if you're like, I look out my window here. So I'm in my office, and I live in this nice neighborhood, and everybody knows that walking, as Hippocrates said, is humanity's best medicine. And now we have reams and reams and reams of peer-reviewed research. It's just about the absolute best thing you can do for yourself in terms of movement and exercise. You want to live longer, walk more. You want to have better arterial flexibility, walk more. You want to regulate your weight, walk more. You want to improve your kidney health, your immunity, your neuroplasticity, your gut health, walk more. So the research is overwhelming, and it's all in the book. We put the links to everything you need to know, leading edge, chapter and verse. Look it up. I talked to a lot of the actual scientists who've done the actual research. It just keeps getting better and better how good walking really is for you. So, but most people kind of understand that. So a lot of my neighbors have been reading these stories that come out in the New York Times. Walking is even better than we thought. Prevention Magazine is huge here. They had a big headlines. Walking is the secret of weight loss. So all my neighbors are out there walking along. I watch them. But they're plodding. They're schlepping. They're pounding the pavement. They're overstriding. Because, and I say this with total compassion, because I've had a hip replacement and a knee replacement and a shoulder replacement. That's what years of intensive martial arts. And I know, I mean, I could easily, If I didn't know what I know, if I didn't practice what I put in this book, well, from my shoulder replacement, I'd be like this. And from my knee and my hip replacement, I'd be like that. And I'd be like, hey, Brendan, it's great to be with you here today. Because that's what it feels like when the trauma is in your body. So I am profoundly grateful that I have learned multiple modalities for freeing my body. And those modalities become really important every decade of your life. They just become exponentially more important as you get older. So everybody's had an injury. Everybody's had a trauma. And those injuries and traumas throw off your gait, your natural gait that you just had naturally when you were a kid. You were out there walking, no problem. You didn't need any lessons. Kids' feet come down very freely. They're very playful. Their spine is upright. They have a big smile on their face. They're not afraid of falling. But as the years go by, people internalize habitually interference with their gait. And what do you think happens to that interference as you get older and you have another injury or a problem or a difficulty, and it could be emotional, spiritual, on any dimension, but obviously also physical. You develop what Professor John Dewey called compensatory maladjustments. So here's the other thing we know. If your gait is getting less steady as you get older, your risk of death from all causes is going up. And I look at my neighbors and I look at them with total compassion. Their gaits are not very steady. And they don't have any understanding that their gaits aren't steady or any means of correcting it. So purely on a wellness level, and wellness is a huge factor in any organization. I mean, we don't manage time anymore. We manage energy, first in ourselves, then in others. So if you and all your people walk with increasing walking steadiness, without compensatory maladjustments, in a more natural way, discovering your more natural gait, greater ease in every step, greater mindfulness and presence and energy in every step, think about the effect of that on your organizational culture. Think about the effect of that on you as a leader, the way you walk into the room, literally, the way you walk onto the stage to address people. We all talk about management by walking around, but how are you actually walking around? Are you plodding? Are you schlepping? Are you pushing yourself? Because people read your gait, they read your energy. And if there's stress and imbalance and lack of steadiness or too much effort in it, well, that's a huge body language message you're communicating to your team. Whereas if there's ease and grace and poise and even joy in the way you walk, that's the message you're communicating to your team. And by the way, your customers and clients and all your vendors and everybody you interact with all the time. So Lao Tzu says, be really whole and all things will come to you. Well, the way you walk through this world is a huge part of that wholeness. And my co-author and I have come up with simple, practical, immediately applicable ways, first of all, to just improve your gait. That's the first part of the book, to become more comfortable with every step. The second part of the book is, okay, how do you bring more energy to every step? And then the third part is, how do you bring more inspiration? And I'm happy to talk about any and all of those elements.
Brilliant. Well, what I'd love to do today is a little mini masterclass on those three core elements of walking well. And I was delighted actually whenever you had shared with me prior to the book that this was a project that you were actually embarking upon. I didn't know the Porsche was connected to it. I would have invited you to a trip to see the 911s being made actually in Germany. I took 18 CEOs there back in February, so we may have actually seen your Porsche go through the assembly line. Absolutely incredible. I recall quite a number of years ago in our previous business, when Fitbits came out, the little Fitbit watches people will be familiar
Sure.
with. Maybe you've got a Garmin or a Nora or some other pedometer that counts their steps. Fitbit came out, released their version of the step count, and we in our attempt in our desire to immerse people, to get people to engage in wellness within the business, we gave everyone a voucher for a free Fitbit. That then turned into these interdepartmental walking groups at lunchtime. The ladies would take off their heels if they had worn heels that morning. They would have their trainers in their bag, and you'd have the accountant walking with the young lady in marketing, with someone else in design, somebody else in engineering. And what this did was foster relationships that ordinarily would not have happened. We took it then to another level where we invited people to create these little walking teams, invited them to participate in a walking competition. So we tracked weekly steps. And then at the end of each month, we would announce a team winner who would in turn receive a donation to a charity of their choice. And this all came from walking, just creating something very, very powerful. And people who were walking for the first time, actually, I recently sponsored one of the girls that I used to work with who headed up one of the walking groups, and she has just ran her very first marathon. So this is where it led to as well. That's a long way of saying I'm absolutely delighted that there's a book out there that coaches us in walking well. Let's begin with, I know you've mentioned comfort, vitality, and inspiration. I'm keen to really get into how walking can inspire leaders. It's the first theme that enshrines our 10 principle ScaleX framework. And if leaders themselves are not inspired, then they will not create an inspiring vision, and they will not inspire others to want to come and support them in execution of that vision. So the inspiration piece is absolutely critical. So let's get super practical, super tactical at an inspiration level. How does walking actually inspire us to be inspired?
Well, how it does so is a function of the body, mind, spirit, emotion, what we might call the quadrinity. Right? There's your spirit, there's your mind, there's your emotion, there's your body. And walking is a time-honored methodology for aligning the quadrinity. There's all sorts of speculation and theories and studies about why do people get their best ideas when they walk? The main area, people get their best idea in the shower, the bath, when they're sleeping. But if you look through the great geniuses in history, their number one method of getting their best ideas is to go for a walk. So you were mentioning Fitbits and measuring your steps. So who invented the first pedometer? Yeah, it was Leonardo da Vinci, no kidding.
Tell me more.
Right? I mean, it's almost too good to be true, because I'm writing the chapter on inspiration. I'm going through everything I know about the great geniuses of history, and I'm studying, what was their relationship with walking? Well, it's not hard to find, because if you just look at random quotes on the internet about walking from geniuses, there's tons of them. Now, many of them are not accurate. And of course, I go through and find out who really said what and when they say it and what was the context, and corroborate it, get the real source. But having done that, I can tell you a book about geniuses who did not use walking as their main way of getting inspired would be a very small book. So Leonardo da Vinci, I found the picture. He invented the pedometer because walking was his favorite exercise. He would walk in Italy. They have something they call the passeggiata. Everybody goes for a walk in the village, around the town. Everybody goes for a stroll and greets each other. And Leonardo walked with so much grace and elegance and poise that commentators of the time would report that people would just come out to watch him move, to watch him walk, because he was so elegant and graceful. Thomas Jefferson came up with these, kind of cool ideas: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He also invented a pedometer. They called them Thomas meters, because both Leonardo and Jefferson, two of history's greatest geniuses, thought if people can measure their steps, they're likely to walk more. And walking is so good for the spirit, the mind, the heart, and the body, for the whole quadrinity. So obviously, the same thing is true in different fields of genius. Beethoven loved to walk in the field of music, as did Mahler and so many other great composers. Emily Dickinson, the list of poets, Mary Oliver writes that she would just stop in the middle of her walk and start writing her poem. And that's the other thing they all say too, is keep a notebook with you. Thomas Hobbes, the great philosopher, had an inkwell put into his walking stick so he could have enough ink to jot down his ideas when he was out for his walks.
And tell me, Michael, have you demonstrated causation in terms of inspiring ideas and thoughts as a result of walking? Or is it simply that these people are active people and there's a correlation?
Well, so there's a lot of anecdotal evidence, but in the book, for those who need it, we point you to the contemporary scientific research that makes the case that, yeah, this really does indeed work. So
let's be super instructive here. You mentioned taking a notebook with you, and I'm glad you did that. So when should we walk? Where should we walk? How much should we walk? And what should we take with us if there's anything more than a notebook?
Well, all of those things that you just asked about are important, and I'm happy to get to them, but I'd rather tell you something that's even more important. Because we're more concerned, my co-author and I, in this book, with how you walk. How do you walk? How do you take every step? So if you are walking with unnecessary tension and you take more steps, you may be doing yourself some harm while you're also doing yourself some good. If you're pounding the pavement, there's one guy who walks around here and you could see him overstriding because he's read, take 10,000 steps every day. Improve your walking speed. So he's pushing with every step. So I'm sure it's, on the one hand, it's good for his cardiovascular system, not so good for his musculoskeletal system, not so good for his long-term gait. So what got this book started, I already knew all this stuff about, I've been teaching my clients to go for walks together in just the way you described, because it's a fabulous way for team building. We get people to walk together. When you're walking together, instead of being face to face across the table, you're facing the same direction. You are moving together in rhythm. Oh, it's a little easier to breathe. It's a little less pressure. You're outside. Get out of the habitual environment. It's easier to be creative. Walk with different people. Have a conflict, have a challenge. Take a walk together. So one of the people I interviewed for the book is Steve Rogelberg, who's the world expert. He's a professor at the University of North Carolina on meetings. He does all his own meetings while walking whenever he can. Even on the phone, he said, I'll just meet with somebody on the phone and I'll go for a walk and they'll go for a walk and we'll talk. But if he can, he walks with them in person. So I talked to leader after leader, consultant after consultant. Many of these are my friends from Marshall Goldsmith, MG100, Steve's a member, Bev K, one of the great pioneers in the human resources field, Todd Churches, the author of the great book, Visual Leadership, Peter Bregman, one of the world's leading executive coaches, Mark C. Thompson, at the top of the list. Peter and Mark compete for who's the number 2 behind Marshall Goldsmith. But these are really the elite creme de la creme, finest coaches in the world. It wasn't hard to get them to talk about how much they love walking, how important it is for their clients, how much they have integrated into their own coaching practice. So, yeah, walk as much as you can. Park your car far away and walk to the market whenever I can. I don't take the escalator or the I walk up and down the stairs. And obviously, you don't need to read a book to figure out walk in nature. Hello. I mean, yes, in our book, there's tons of research on just how profoundly transformational this really is on every level. You'll get more ideas, your immune system gets stronger, you're happier, your mood is uplifted. Duh. I mean, really, you don't need to read our book for that. Although we offer you a perspective on it that you probably haven't heard before. When you get into it, you'll go, oh my God, I didn't know. But with my co-author, I said, one thing we're going to do with this book is we're going to put something on every page where the reader goes, I didn't know that. Go ahead.
I want to come to that because I'm keen to understand and to learn about the revelations that you uncovered, things that's really surprised you. But before I do,
sure.
How do we walk then that we're not plodding, we're not overstriding, we're not slipping? How should I feel? Or, for a lot of us, you talked about walking with unnecessary tension. How do we even know if we're carrying unnecessary tension to begin with? Because nobody brings, invites tension. So how do we even know that we're carrying that? So can you share with our listeners a few little things to be mindful of in terms of how they should walk?
That's just exactly what the book is really all about. So,
buy the book.
Right. So that's the no. I'm going to tell you the answer. But right now, I want to help people as much as possible. Like I tried to write the book with my co-author. We tried to write the book so that you could just follow the lessons in the book. If you do what we tell you, you don't even need to look at the videos and the illustrations that we will have on our website. You don't even need to go to the free meditations on our website that will help you do what we aim to teach you in the book, which is, and this is the answer to your question, sharpen your kinesthetic and proprioceptive awareness.
No, those are two big words.
I'm going to explain them. Okay, so if you close your eyes, you watch me do this, right? I'm going to close my eyes. And I'm going to take my 2 index fingers and I'm going to put them on my nose. Okay. So it's my kinesthetic sense, my sense of movement that allowed me to move my fingertips to my nose with my eyes closed, right? And it's my proprioceptive sense, which is how I know where my nose is and that it's my nose. So the word proprioceptive is the same root as proprietary, proprietor. It's the sense of, oh, this is me, this is my body. And the kinesthetic sense is the sense of this is my body moving. And here's how it's moving. So if you're plodding, if you're schlepping, if you're overstriding, it's because you don't have the appropriate attunement of your kinesthetic and proprioceptive sense. And by the way, kinesthesia and proprioception also relate to the other sense, which people don't know about, interoception. That's how you get messages from your gut, your heart, your bones, and your blood, the source of inspiration and genius. But here's the why walking is so great for you is when you raise your kinesthetic and proprioceptive sense, guess what happens to your interoception? You get clearer messages. And you get clear messages when you walk, obviously, in nature. So this is how it all comes together. But then the next question is, how do you raise your kinesthetic and proprioceptive awareness? So I don't think we have time for me to take you through the meditation now, but it's in the book. It's really simple and it's for free on our website. We help you direct your attention and connect to your body in a new way. And it's simple. It's easy. It takes 20 minutes. You'll feel yourself expanded and open, and you'll feel your body better. You'll get a better feedback, and you go, oh, like, so the big revelation. I'm going to take you back just because this is, you can tell I'm pretty enthusiastic about it.
I love it. You always are, Michael. I love it. I love the passion you have for everything.
I want to give credit. I want to give real credit to my co-author, Bruce Furtman. So let me just tell you the origin story of this book, and it will help answer the wonderful questions that you've put forth thus far. And I think it'll help all our listeners tuning in. So I've known Bruce for over 40 years. We are both teachers of the Alexander technique. We're both teachers of Tai Chi. Bruce studied Aikido a lot. I'm an Aikido teacher, but Bruce is a tango guy. He's a Japanese tea ceremony guy, and I mean really advanced. And he didn't have to pay to go to college. He got a full scholarship in gymnastics to what was then the leading gymnastics program in the country. And then he was also a professional modern dancer. So he is a person of very refined kinesthetic and proprioceptive intelligence and a master teacher of all of those disciplines. So his passion for the last 20 or so years of his life is to take everything he ever learned and put it into walking. Okay? So he stopped doing Tai Chi because he said, I can get everything from just walking. He lives in New Mexico, where I used to live, and he walks up this 5-mile mountain trail. It's uphill. He moved there when he was 40. He's now 74. He walks up this hill faster, easier now at 74 than he did when he was 40. Okay? So a year and a half ago, I went on my first post-pandemic trip back to New Mexico, where I used to live, my favorite place. Bruce says, I heard you're coming to New Mexico. I have this idea I want to share with you. I think it could be a book, but I want to see what you think. So I got to tell you, I was skeptical because I'm an Aikido, I'm a 5th degree black belt in Aikido. I teach Tai Chi, I teach Qigong. I've been taking people for walks for years. So I'm open, but I'm skeptical. It's like, okay, dude, show me what you got. And I said to him, we got together, and I said, here's what I want you to do. Treat me like a total beginner. I'm not an Aikidoist. I'm not a Tai Chi guy. I'm just a person who's my age, who's had a hip replacement, a knee replacement, and a shoulder replacement. Show me what you got. So he took me through it takes about 35, 40 minutes. This is part 1 of the book. This is what we put in the book, but he takes me through what's in the book. And I will tell you what some of it is, so people you don't just have to buy the book. You can get something right now from our conversation. But he shows me this, and I had absolute epiphany because I just thought, oh my God, I'm walking with greater ease. I'm more connected to the earth with every step. It's so simple. And it was nothing I didn't know, but he put it in a sequence that's genius. So that's when we just realized, let's do this together and bring this forth. And because the other thing that, like, walking is something that almost everybody does. And what contribution we could make if we could just help all the people who love to walk literally get more out of every step. And here's what I will tell you, part of my intense enthusiasm for this is it's changed every step I have taken since I walked around. It was actually the indoor swimming pool of my friend who in Santa Fe, who has this amazing estate. And we walked around the swimming pool, but literally every step I have taken since then has been informed by what I learned. And as we were writing the book, I would take walks, which is what I always do as part of my method to help generate I work for a while, make a mind map, write for a while, then I go for a walk. But what's so cool is it's not just that I'm walking in my beautiful neighborhood where there are ponds and herons and hawks and willow trees, but I'm also literally applying and practicing what we are teaching you in the first 3 chapters of the book to work more comfortably. And I can tell you what it is, but it helps. You can't just go, okay, I got it, but it won't work. That won't work. It takes time, not too much time. It takes about 35, 40 minutes to experiment with this. And the first thing we guide people to do is just think about whatever preconceptions you have about walking. Think about how you grew up being told how to walk. For example, here in the US, a lot of people were told to, if you're a guy, you were told to walk like John Wayne or Clint Eastwood, walk like a man. Right? If you're a woman, you were told walk like a lady. I don't know if they used to have these charm school things where they would walk with books on their head, right? Or they tell you your heel should strike the ground first and then the toe. Well, what a brutal, violent image of striking Mother Earth. Please don't strike the ground. Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Buddhist teacher, said, walk as though you're kissing the earth with every step. And we teach you how to make that a big, juicy smooch of the earth, not just a little. The first thing is consider your preconceptions about walking and let them go. And open yourself to curiosità, to explore. Like give up the idea that you think you know how to walk and ask your feet, how would you like to walk? And experiment with that for a while. Most people find it feels a little awkward. It feels almost a little sloppy because your feet just kind of they don't want to strike the ground. They want to be free. So then the second thing is, and this is something that really shocked Bruce, who was a kinesthetic genius, and then it shocked me. When I realized that, and Bruce realized the same thing, we both tended to brace our ankles and our feet for impact with every step. And so does almost everyone I have ever seen since I've been studying this. Everybody, they're all people. Your foot is designed naturally to just flow through like that. And then, maybe you can't see, to flow through and then peel along the ground. Humans are plantigrades. So are bears. Your cat, your dog, a deer, they are digitigrades. They walk on their toes. Bears and humans, our foot's designed to nice and loose and free, roll along the ground. The whole soul, that's what plantigrade means. The whole soul luxuriates and spreads out with every step. But if you're bracing your ankles for impact unconsciously, and you're not aware of that because your kinesthetic sense hasn't been tuned to become aware of it, you're just pounding the pavement and taking shock through your system with every step you take. So Bruce told me he had this revelation, and then I had it when he showed it to me, and it's changed my life forever to unbrace my ankles with every step I take. But it requires continuous monitoring because it's the habit. We're afraid of falling. We're bipeds. It's a little insecure. So we think we need to tense, but we don't. So when you start unbracing your ankles, and again, in the book and on the website, we'll take you through how to think about this. But when you start unbracing with every step, it's your feet spread out. They get spongier. Yeah, a lot of people find they need to get wider shoes after they practice what we're teaching.
Yeah, I have been wearing Vivo barefoot shoes for quite a number of years, and I've found that my feet have strengthened as a result. My calves have strengthened. My knees. This has changed everything about the way I walk. I used to get chronic back pain that has that has disappeared. And I'm standing on my bare feet at the moment as we're recording this podcast. When I get an opportunity, I tend not to wear shoes around the house at all. And I have practiced grounding more often to wear just to be barefoot in nature. Any revelations about that, Michael? Has it changed what you were? Do you tend to get the shoes off as much as you can? Can you share a little bit about that? Are there any little practices there that you can share with our listeners to give us a boost of vitality, for
Yes.
example?
No. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. So in the beginning, when we were working on this, I interviewed a couple of podiatrists. I thought, do we need to make recommendations about shoes? Because I know the lady who wrote the book on grounding with Dr. Steven Sinatra, Sharon Whiteley, brilliant. And it's wonderful. Grounding is great. Be with the earth, take off your shoes. Personally, I like to walk on the beach. It's my favorite place to walk whenever I can. But for most people, they have to wear shoes if they have a job, if they're going to work, if they're going, and that's where you're going to do most of your walking out in the world. And so I thought, the real answer is I want people to be empowered to figure out what kind of footwear I'm not a footwear expert. I don't want to write about something I'm not an expert about. You figure that out for yourself. You just explain what works for you. I love that. Other people I know love this particular kind of walking shoe, and other people like that particular one. And some people like Birkenstocks, and some people want to wear high heels, even though that's your business. What I'm concerned about is, will your gait be natural? Can you let go of your ankles with every step? Can you use our design, which is to be a plantigrade, and let your feet peel along with every step as you walk? And then later in the book, we introduce you to animal helpers when you walk. So every culture has these combo beings that are, part eagle, part human, part elk, part human, part tiger, part human, part bear, part human. And in our contemporary culture, we have all these movies, there's Avatar and there's Spider, where we're taking on these animal qualities. Humans from every culture are always inspired by the power, the naturalness, the chi of the animal kingdom. So once you get through the basics of let your feet come down as they want, practice unbracing, peel along with every step, then we guide you to walk with the help of the bear and the crane and the deer and the dinosaur. And these power animals they won't get you to do something that isn't already in your natural gait. What they'll do is help you access that natural gait. So it's not like you have to try to do something that, I'm going to walk like this. No, we're designed to walk like bears. So when you study the way a bear walks, you'll walk better. The elegance and lengthening of the spine that comes when you imagine you have beautiful antlers like a deer, well, that's kind of saves you 20 Alexander technique lessons if you can really learn to make the elk your best friend. Ideally, you'll go learn this with an Alexander teacher, and then you'll accelerate all this.
Tell me what that is, Michael. Share with our listeners. You've mentioned the Alexander technique a number of times, yourself and the co-author, your wonderful co-author, both Alexander
Yes.
technique practitioners and teachers. What actually is the Alexander technique?
It's the methodology they teach at the world's leading schools of performance, the Royal Academy of Music, Royal Academy of Drama, the Juilliard School, for developing stage presence. And it's the subject of my very first book, Body Learning, An Introduction to the Alexander Technique. It's the methodology in business for having executive presence. And executive presence is more about what you don't do than what you do.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Being at your full stature. So if I walk into the room and say, all right, people, you know, uh, I'm going to hold you accountable for yada, yada, yada. You want to flee, especially the creative, innovative people. If I walk into the office and say, just it's already different, right? You don't want this person walking into your office and telling you what to do. And you don't want this person either walking into your office and telling you what to do. And you don't want this person walking into your office telling you what to do. And when this person walks into your office, they don't usually tell you what to do. They ask you what's up for you and how they can support you in achieving something beyond what any of us may have previously dreamed you might achieve. And what do you need? And how can the organization empower you? Let's go for a walk and we'll talk about it. So Alexander is a genius discipline that I recommend to everyone. I mean, if you want to accelerate your ability to apply everything in walking well, yeah, go have some Alexander technique lessons, because I trained for 3 years in London in the 1970s to become an Alexander technique teacher. And why does it take 3 years? Because you rework your whole nervous system so that you can touch somebody in such a way as to help them experience their natural poise and ease and grace. Just that quality we had when we were babies. Spine's upright, face is open, body's free and easy. And then, people like trauma, injury, people get armored, they get stiffer, they get older, gravity pulls them down, and then you can't even see them on the podcast anymore. So, I can't tell you how grateful I am, not just for the opportunity to teach this to my clients over the years so they can show up differently. I'll give you one example. I have a client, I was coaching him, really difficult situation. He's the CEO. We've got the executive chair. We've got the lead investor. There's another coach on this. It's a Zoom coaching session. The other coach is coaching the executive chair. I'm coaching the CEO. There's the investor, some board members. It's really high pressure, huge conflict. The whole future, this is a startup. The whole future of the company is at stake, and the executive chair and the CEO have huge issues. So the CEO was a little intimidated, and he was fidgeting, and he was just, I'm exaggerating, but not too much. He was contracting, because that's what people do when they're intimidated, when they're freaked out. They start, or they stiffen up and get rigid. But his thing, so I'm on the chat on the Zoom, and I say, put your hands on the desk, palms up, a line around the vertical axis, and have a little smile. So he goes from this, he goes, oh shit, he goes, oh yeah. The way they treat him changes immediately. See, we teach people how to treat us. So big part of that is nonverbal. Big part of that is your stature. It's your smile. When you have a little smile, everybody else feels better.
Yeah, that's quite profound.
Right? You're breathing freely. Everybody else breathes a little more freely, because the most powerful nervous system, the most organized nervous system, will dominate the proceedings. And I want that to be you if you're the leader of the group. So the way you walk in that room, I'm not kidding. When I say the way you walk in the, and what the reason Bruce and I were so inspired is he wrote a book about the Alexander technique. I wrote a book about the Alexander technique. And go have Alexander lessons. But that's you need 30 lessons with a teacher. You can read this book. You'll be walking differently if you do everything we tell you just in the first section. You can do it on your own. Our website will then give you videos and all sorts of stuff. And we're going to keep upgrade. What we hope to do is create a worldwide community. We're going to train facilitators to guide people in their walking group to apply this approach. So, and we're going to keep taking user comments and sharing it with the community. So the vision is a global conscious walking community that is walking well.
Here, here. I think that's a beautiful way to move into our close. Just to remind people, because I love the way you position concepts and material and learning in mnemonics. Walking, you've created a mnemonic from walking. You've referenced all of the different benefits of walking throughout this podcast, but just to close, to remind people of the benefits of walking, using walking as an acronym.
Oh, sure. Weight loss, that's the W. Arterial flexibility, longevity, kidney health, immunity, neuroplasticity, and gut health. Right? So I wrote that, and then I sent it to a friend of mine who's a physician who ran the mind-body program at Valley Hospital System, a big hospital system here on the East Coast. And she wrote a beautiful piece. She said, these benefits are profound and clearly proven, and there's more. And then she went on to even more. So it's, but just think about how much more you benefit. Like, what if every step was just a little more comfortable, just a little bit? Think about how much more energy you have if every step, let's say you're taking 10,000 steps a day, and let's say each of those steps was just, even if it was just 10% easier, how much more energy do you have from every step? And the benefits are even stronger than that, but even just to be very conservative. So it's not just how many steps, it's how you take those steps. And when you raise your kinesthetic, proprioceptive, and interoceptive awareness, which we teach you how to do in the book, then every step can get better and better.
There we go. I am excited to support you with the release of the book. I've been very privileged and fortunate to receive an early copy. Well done. It's wonderfully written as ever. I've dived into a lot of your work, Michael. I love the way you write. Again, every book brings so much value. So we will put a link to the book in the show notes, to the website for the book in the show notes. I posed this question to you the last time. I'm curious to know if it has changed. Can you share with our listeners 3 timeless takeaways?
Oh, sure. Well, I have 3 timeless takeaways related to walking, and they relate to the 3 sections of the book, right? So if you learn to let your feet come down naturally and unbrace your ankles and peel along, you will put more glide in your stride. That's number 1. Right? There's lots of things in part 2, but the simplest one, when you walk, breathe through your nose all the time. Keep your lips gently closed. So Patrick McCown, we cited him. I interviewed him. He's so helpful with the book. His wisdom is there, along with Richard Brown and Patricia Gerbarg. And the simplest element is just lips gently together. Breathe through your nose when you walk, and then you will have more pep in your step, right? And then feel the support of Mother Earth with every step. Say thank you with every step. Be grateful that you can walk with every step, and you will put more soul in your stroll.
Wonderful. And I didn't expect anything less. And I can testify to the wonderful work of Patrick McCown. We've had Patrick on the show. He's a world-renowned authority on breath work and all things breathing related, an incredible guy. I'm delighted that you guys connected in relation to the book. So well done. Michael, 18 books in. what's next for you?
Well, right now, we're in launch mode. So I'm just all in to launch this, to launch Walking Well, make it a global phenomenon, help as many people as we can. And my feeling is that's gonna that will call me to the next great project. So that's how I do everything. I don't do it analytically. I don't do it as a business plan. I do what I'm called to do by the quantum field.
Got
List
a joke coming out there.
of unlimited intelligence. But this is actually what I've always taught. This is what I've always followed. That's why my books go from one is about wine, and then the next one is about improving as you age, and the next one is about qigong, and the next one is about presentation skills. The next one is about healing, organization. The next one is about relationships, and then the next one's about walking. So I don't know what the next one's going to be about, but I am 1,000% confident that the field of unlimited intelligence will basically write the book for me. So I'm just standing by, ready to take dictation.
Amazing. Michael, if people want to find out more about your book, about the website, and broadly about your work, where best to connect?
Best place is michaelgelb.com, Gelb, michaelgelb.com. We have a free newsletter, which will keep you up to date on everything, all the activities around the new book, information about our amazing Da Vinci video program, our facilitator training courses. So michaelgelb.com is the best place.
Brilliant. Look, I want to thank you, my friend, for, as ever, I said it at the outset, for bringing such immense value to the world in such a wide number of topics and passions. I love the fact that you bring to your work so much wonderful energy, so much wisdom, so much humility. I wish you every success, my friend. Walk well. Take care.
Thank you.